Hello and welcome to 5.2 point slope form and standard form of a linear equation. So we've talked about standard form before, and now we're just putting it together with this thing called point slope form. So point slope form is when you have a point and a slope. Get it? Point slope form. We have our slope, which is right here, and our point. This creates our point. Okay, now if we're just given 2 points on a line, we first have to find the slope. And that's where we use our formula, which remember is the change in y over the change of x. So that's y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. And that we only have to use when we do not have our slope. Now, reminder, point slope form is an intermediate equation, okay? Meaning you do not leave it in point slope form. We rearrange it into slope intercept form or sometimes standard form. So, to find the slope, you first find the slope if you're given 2 points. From there, you plug in your values into the equation and you rearrange it into slope intercept form. So what we're going to do is we're going to find the point slope of these 2 pieces. So we're given our point, so x1, y1, and we're given our slope. So we can plug it into, again, our formula is y minus y sub 1 equals our slope times x minus x sub 1. Now, whenever we replace a variable, we do want to use parentheses around it. So we get y minus y sub 1 equals our slope times x minus x sub 1. And then we're going to simplify it because a double negative creates a positive, and we get equals 3 times x minus 2. Now, if I ask for the point slope, I'm going to put PS, that would be my point slope formula. We can also keep taking it and simplify it, so that means we would distribute in, so 3x minus 6, and then subtract 1 from both sides to get it into slope intercept form to make it easier to graph. Now, for number 2, we have a little bit of a problem. We aren't given our slope. So first, we have to find our slope for these 2 problems. And so, again, our slope is, I'm going to label them. I think it makes it just a little bit easier. You don't have to do this. So we would end up with 4 minus negative 2 over 3 minus negative 1. And so when we simplify, we get 4 plus 2 over 3 plus 1, which gives us 6 over 4, which simplifies to 3/2. So there's our slope. Now, you can use either point. Put that right here. You can use either point for point slope. I'm just going to use my first point just because I've already labeled it. So we have y minus y sub 1 equals our slope, so 3/2 times x minus x sub 1. And so we're going to simplify it to get y plus 2 equals 3/2 times x plus 1. And so as of right now, that would be my point slope formula. Now, if we needed to get it into slope intercept form, we would have to clear that fraction, and so we would multiply everything by 2. So we would get 2 times y plus 2 equals 3 times x plus 1. Distributing in would give us 2y plus 4 equals 3x plus 3. Subtracting 4 from both sides gives us 2y equals 3x minus 1. Dividing everything by 2 would give us y equals 3/2 x minus 2, minus 1/2. So this again is our point slope form, and this is our slope intercept form. Okay, and you can kind of see it. Here's our slope, here's our slope. Here's our slope, here's our slope. So that should not change. Woo. And so let's look at a graph now. So we are given 2 points, but we're also given our slope. So we can do our rise over run, our change in our y's over our change of our x's. Oopsies. So we went down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we run 1. So our slope, again, the change in y over the change of x, -5 over 1 is -5. Now I am given 2 points. My point right here is -3, 2. So I have my slope and my 2 points, so I can plug it in. Y minus y sub 1 equals my slope times x minus x sub 1. I'm going to simplify to get y minus 2 equals -5 times x plus 3. So this would be my point slope formula if I was asking for it. If, again, it's an intermediate, we can keep going and distribute in, so don't lose track of that negative. And then I'm going to add 2 to both sides to get y equals -5x minus 13. There we go. There's our equation. It kind of makes sense because our line's going down, so it eventually is going to hit -13. Kind of a way to check it. Okay, let's go to the next page. So standard form. So we've seen point slope form. Now we're going to see standard form. So this is where we have ax plus by equals c. This is where a, b, and c are integers, so no fractions. And a and b cannot both be 0. One can be, but they both can't. And then the biggest thing here is that a must be positive. That's a big deal here. So what we're going to do is we're going to first write 4x plus 7 equals 3y in standard form. So we have to move that 3y out of the way, which would give us 4x minus 3y plus 7 equals 0. And my last thing is I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides. So we get 4x minus 3y equals -7. They're all integers, and again, a is positive. That's a big thing here. Okay, let's look at our next problem. Example 2. So we have a fraction. So let's clear out that fraction. We're going to multiply everything by 3. So we get 3y equals 4x minus 6. And I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. And again, I'm going to write it in standard form. So that's that ax plus by equals c. Now, we're not done because a is not positive. So what we're going to do is we're going to change all of our signs. We're going to divide everything by -1, which will give us positive 4x minus 3y equals 6. That would be our standard form because, again, our a value has to be positive. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to write an equation for the line in standard form that passes through the point -8 and 3 with the slope of -2. So to do this, to write it, we have to first write it in slope-intercept form, or point slope form. So that's y minus, so this is again x sub 1, y sub 1, 3 equals my slope, which is 2 times x minus x sub 1. And so we would get y minus 3 equals 2 times x plus 8. So there's my point slope form. And now what we're going to do is we're going to change it to standard form. So we're going to distribute in. So we get y minus 3 equals 2x plus 16. Oopsies. I'm going to add 3 to both sides. And so we get y equals 2x plus 19. Look at that slope-intercept form. Now I'm going to subtract that 2x from both sides. So I'll write it right here. So we get -2x plus y equals 19. Well, we're not done because of the negative, so we're going to divide everything by -1. Or we're multiplying everything by -1 to get positive 2x minus y equals -19. And there's your answer. Okay, oopsies, here we go. We're now going to write an equation given 2 points. So hopefully you're starting to realize is that we're just keep building on. So like this is x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. So the first thing you might kind of want to write small for this is we need to find our slope of our line. So our slope is y sub 2, so 2 minus -3 over 7 minus -3. And we would get 2 plus 3 over 7 plus 3, which simplifies to 5 over 10, which we can then simplify to 1/2. So now that we have our slope and a point, I'm going to use my first point, we would have y minus y sub 1 equals 1/2 times x minus x sub 1. I'm now going to simplify, so I would get y plus 3 equals 1/2 times x plus 3. So there's my point slope form. We need to simplify, so we got to clear out that fraction. So we're going to multiply both sides by 2. In doing so, we would get 2 times y plus 3 equals, well, the 2's, that's cancel out. That's the whole reason we're doing this. 1 times x plus 3, well, anything times 1 is itself. So there we go. Now we're going to distribute in to get 2y plus 6 equals x plus 3. I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to subtract x from both sides, and I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides to get negative x plus 2y equals -3. Now, what we really are, we're not dividing by negative ones. They're the same thing. We're going to multiply by -1. And the reason we can do this is we're keeping the equation balanced. So we get x minus 2y equals +3. And there's your answer. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to write an equation in standard form of the horizontal and vertical lines. So this point right here, think about, okay, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It goes through y equals 5. It goes through the y value at 5. And this is 1, 2, -3. It goes through the x value at -3. So these are actually in standard form. Sometimes you can think of it as there's no x, so we could have 0x plus y equals 5. Just like with our vertical line, we can also write this as x plus 0y equals -3. They're kind of in the same, they're the same. These forms, in the blue form, it just gives it so you have the a, b, and c value. So let's look at example 6. So what we're going to do is we're writing an equation in standard form of a horizontal and vertical line. Again, think horizontal, hoi is y equals, vertical is a vux, so v equals, that passes through the point 3, -5. And so, since we have x and y, so we have x equals 3 and y equals -5. So again, these are interchangeable. We can write this as x plus 0y equals 3 and 0x plus y equals -5. Okay. So last video we talked about parallel lines. We're going to keep talking about them, but now we're going to talk about perpendicular lines. So this is when we have opposite reciprocals. And so if we have a slope of -2/3, so it's the opposite sign, so it's going to be positive, and then we flip the fraction. So 3/2. We don't really need the positive, so I'm just going to write it as 3/2. So we have +2, the opposite would be negative, and then the reciprocal, so flip that fraction, 1/2. Now our next one, again, we can think about it as -1/1. We're going to make it positive and flip that fraction. Well, 1/1 is just 1. And our last one would become -5, because flipping 1/5 becomes 5 over 1, and anything divided by 1 is itself. And we just have the opposite sign. So what we're going to do for example 2 and 3 is we're going to determine if these two lines are perpendicular. So let's just look at one. The perpendicular of this would be positive 1/3. Oopsies, not 1/2, 1/3, which does not equal 3. So these are not perpendicular. Example 3, let's look at our first slope, so negative 4/5. Our perpendicular line would be positive 5/4. I'm just going to erase that positive because we don't write it like that. And well and behold, oh, look at that. It is positive 5/4. So yes, these two are perpendicular lines. So what we're going to do with example 4 is we are going to write an equation of the line perpendicular to negative 3x plus 2 with the point 2, 3. Oopsie. So this is telling you your slope of your perpendicular line. It's going to be positive 1/3 because a perpendicular is opposite reciprocal. So now that we know that, we're going to do y minus y sub 1 equals our slope times x minus x sub 1. And so I'm just going to kind of simplify y minus 3 equals 1/3 times x minus 2. So there is our point slope. We can also write it in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to multiply everything by 3 to clear out that fraction. So we would get 3y minus 9 equals x minus 2. Adding 9 to both sides is plus 7. And then we would get y equals 1/3 x plus 7/3. So there's our slope-intercept form. We can also take this form and rewrite it in standard form by subtracting x from both sides and then multiplying by everything by negative because our a term needs to be positive. Oopsies. And that is how we can get all three forms from this one problem. And then we're just going to kind of review. So parallel lines have the same slope. So in this case, we have our slope, we have our point, x sub 1, y sub 1. We're just going to plug it into our formula, which is y minus y sub 1 equals our slope. It's going to be parallel is the same slope, x minus x sub 1. And so we would get y minus 5 equals 2 times x plus 3. So that's our point slope form. Now I'm going to distribute y minus 5 equals 2x plus 6. And I'm going to add 5 to both sides to get y equals 2x plus 11. So there's our slope-intercept form. We can then take it, aren't you having so much fun, and subtract 2x from both sides. So minus 2x plus y equals 11. Multiplying everything by a negative to create our a term to be positive will give us 2x minus y equals negative 11. Whew. Okay, so there we go. On the last page, we're going to keep this part to review in class next time we meet. But this kind of brings everything together. So slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. Point slope form, y minus y sub 1 equals our slope times x minus x, x minus x sub 1. I'm going to add a little piece right here. Your slope formula, remember the change in y over the change of x, is y sub 2 minus y sub 1 all over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Just in case you need to find this for this value right here. Standard form, ax plus by equals c. Just make sure you know that a is positive, and then we have a vertical, that's x equals a number. This is our vux. A horizontal line, y equals a number, and that is a hoi. And that is everything. Okay, I hope you understand. Bring your questions to class.